दोस्तों इस क्लास में आपको डिक्टेशन दूंगा मैं 100 WPM पर एसएससी और DSSSB के लिए जो स्पेशल मैटर मैंने तैयार किए हैं उसकी आपको डिक्टेशन प्रोवाइड कर रहा हूं 100 WPM पर। बी रेडी फॉर इट।
The Fundamental Rights chapter is of great interest to me since we had laid down the foundations of it at my house through the labors of a committee which was appointed in Karachi in April 1931. Then we wanted to speak of not merely fundamental rights but also fundamental duties. But it did not look as if these were capable of being tabulated because in the first instance every right implies and includes a duty. What is my right is my neighbor's duty to me. The right of the wife to equality with the husband is the duty of the husband towards the wife in respect of the matter of equality. The right of the people to rebel against a government is also the duty of the government to hang the people for the rebellion. These go together. They are opposites, rather they are the obverse and the reverse of the coin, and the criticism that has been levelled by some friends in this house that the duties were not mentioned is not quite correct because every right implies and includes a duty. The second point on which I wish to say something is about the Comptroller and the Auditor General, and in that we have done a great thing in respect of the position that we have assigned to the Comptroller and the Auditor General. No matter how perfect your constitution may be, no matter how numerous may be the checks and the balances and safeguards for the right conduct of business of the future, it is money that counts, and we have to deal with about 370 crores at the center and as much money in the provinces, and if all this money is not spent aright, and if the people deliver cheap jibes at men like me who count rupees and to whom every rupee means 16 annas, then there is no government at all worth mentioning. It is anarchy, it is chaos, it is loot, it is dacoity. And who is to control this? Is it to be a man who is appointed by the ministry that should control this? No. The Comptroller and the Auditor General must be as supreme and independent as the judges of the Supreme Court, perhaps even more so. He is not merely an Accountant General, but he represents a judicial authority with a judicial frame of mind, and his acts must be acts of justice between what he considers to be right and what is actually done by the executive. At times, he is called upon to criticize the executive and to expose it even to contempt. He should not, therefore, come under the ire of the government or of any party or of the treasury or of the finance department. Till 1806 in England, the Auditor General was not independent, and till 1921 in this country we never thought of the independence of the Auditor General. Later on, we have built up this kind of independence step by step and stage by stage, so that today we have installed him as the Supreme Master, who has his own judgment to look to and who has no fronts or favors to be guided by from outside. Even so, this is not yet perfect. The Auditors Act is yet to be passed in this country as in other self-governing countries, and when this is done, we shall have placed the Auditor General and the Comptroller as the supreme arbiter of India's finances, and then alone our Swaraj will be a proper Swaraj. Finally, let me ask you, what after all is a constitution? It is a grammar of politics, if you like. It is a compass to the political mariner. However good it may be, by itself it is inanimate, it is insensitive, and it cannot work by itself. It is of use to us only in the measure in which we are able to use it, because it has tremendous reserve force, and everything depends upon the manner in which we approach it, whether we observe the letter and ignore the spirit, or whether we observe both the letter and the spirit in equal measure. The words of the lexicon are the same, but they give rise to different styles of composition with different authors. The tunes and the notes are the same, but they give rise to different music with different singers. The colors and the brushes are the same, but they are rendered into different pictures by different painters. So, it is with a constitution. It depends upon how we work it. I shall take only one simple example, the joint electorate. We have established the joint electorate. Have we discharged our duty? Shall we leave the electorate to do what it pleases? The Muslims are some 35 millions in this country, less than about 8 to 7% of the whole population. Is it possible for them in the joint electorate to win a single seat by their own unaided strength without our cooperation? It is a gentleman's agreement that we have entered into, a terrible responsibility that we have taken upon our shoulders when we asked them to give up their reservations and their separate electorates. We have to find as many representatives from the Muslim community through the medium of the joint electorate as would have been their legitimate share if they had their separate electorates. Even so with the Indian Christians and others. And the way to all this was pointed by our women. I admire the women who in the Provincial Model Constitution Committee and in the Central Constitution Committee came forward and said, no separate electorate for women, no reservation for women. Of course, they stand to gain now. But it required courage and imagination to say so then. They showed the way to the Muslims. The Christians had all along been fighting against reservation and separate electorates, but they had been compartmentalized. All the electorates were made not only watertight and airtight but also vote tight. Stop. दोस्तों इसी के साथ ही डिक्टेशन फिनिश होती है। बहुत अच्छी डिक्टेशन है, उम्मीद है आप लोगों ने इसे बहुत अच्छे से लिखा होगा। कंटिन्यू मेहनत करते रहिए। आपसे मुलाकात करूंगा अगली क्लास में अगली ट्रांसक्रिप्शन के साथ। तब तक के लिए बाय बाय, टेक केयर।